Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and today, guys, we got a cool one to talk about. We've got Hush on 4K from Scream Factory. This is a Mike Flanagan film, and if you're not familiar with Mike Flanagan, he's done a ton of TV shows on Netflix, like The Haunting of Hill House, Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Midnight Club, most recently Fall of the House of Usher. He's also directed films like Dr. Sleep, and he's directing the upcoming Exorcist sequel as well. So Mike Flanagan is very well known in the world of horror right now amongst the horror community, and this is one of his earlier films. This was not his first movie. I think Oculus was actually his first like big commercial film. He may have done some short films before that or something like that, but I think Ouija Origin of Evil may have came out before this as well, but this came out back in 2016. It premiered at a film festival and then got picked up by Netflix a month later, and it was on Netflix from 2016 to 2023. So this is a cool release in a variety of ways, and one of the big ones is it was a streaming movie, and now it is on physical media. So it brings up that whole debate, streaming versus physical. Look, I am a person that I don't think streaming's evil. I don't think it's the enemy. I think streaming and physical can coexist just fine. But I am for movies that are on streaming to eventually get that physical release. I think every filmmaker should push for their work to be preserved physically, because how else are you going to ensure that it lasts, years or decades or maybe even centuries? How are you supposed to ensure that your work is going to be seen multiple years from now if it's just on streaming and could potentially just be taken off at any moment's time? Which is what happened to Hush. Like, this was removed from Netflix. The contract between Netflix and Mike Flanagan was over. It was removed, and people were like, what the hell? Like, I wanted to watch Hush. Maybe they hadn't seen it before. Maybe they wanted to rewatch it. And there was no other place to watch this for the longest time. So that really intensified that debate between streaming and physical. So this is a really cool release, guys. Like I said, not only is this a great addition that we're going to get into, guys, the movie, the transfer, this is a 4-disc set. This is a beefy Scream Factory edition right here. But it's a cool release because, again, it was a streaming movie. And yes, you could get it physically from like some of the bootleg websites and stuff like that, but nothing legitimate. But like, this is a release that you can tell Mike Flanagan just poured his heart and soul into this movie. Like, you can tell how much this movie means to him by the work that they put into this release. So we're going to get into all that. Before we do, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk about physical media on this channel, guys. Blu-rays, 4Ks, owning the movies that you love, all that stuff there behind me every single day. If you're into that kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button. Also, comment down below. What do you think about this movie being on physical now? Are you going to pick this up? What do you think about the movie in general? Let me know that in the comment section below. Now, let's get into the actual film. I know I spent a long time there kind of setting this up, but I think it's important to understand like the context of the film and just how important this release is, because I want more of these like streaming movies to be put out on physical media. And I don't know the state of Mike Flanagan and Netflix's relationship at this point. I don't think he's doing anything new with them as of this time, but he's got so many of his shows. He's got some movies on there as well. Like Gerald's Game, I think, is still on Netflix. He directed that, the Stephen King adaptation. So I don't know the nature of his relationship, but I do know that he expressed, like it was in an article like a year and a half ago, that he was very unhappy with the fact that his movies, like, they wouldn't do physical releases of them, and Hush was one of them that he wanted. So when that contract ended, I think he just took it, and then there was news that came out that it was going to be on the Shout Factory streaming site, and then this release got announced. This 4K release right here got announced. Now, I think as of this time, you can watch it on Tubi, you can watch it on Amazon. Like, I think it's up on like all the streaming sites except for Netflix. So there are other ways to see this now, and that's great. This is a movie that I did watch back in 2016, and it was before I really knew Mike Flanagan as a director. Like, I didn't really like know of him or really start hearing his name once Gerald's Game came out, The Haunting of Bly Manor, The Haunting of Hill House, like Dr. Sleep, Midnight Mass. That's when he kind of moved up in notoriety. Like, this was just a cool little thriller that I watched on Netflix back in 2016. I think my wife watched it with me, and I had fond memories of it. Like, I remembered it being a good film, but it wasn't a movie that I was like, oh my God, that movie was a masterpiece, one of the greatest horror movies that I've ever seen. It was just one that I remember being a cool little home invasion thriller with a twist. Like, the twist of the movie is the girl that's isolated in this house, like in the woods, that the guy's terrorizing her. She is deaf. She's also mute as well, so she can't really talk. She can't really hear. So that's the twist. She can't hear or see him coming. At first, she realizes he's there also, and then there's other aspects that they work into that kind of twist your expectations of the tropes of that genre. But it's a cool movie. It really is a cool movie. It does other things that are kind of different as well. I know Stephen King, I think it's on the back here, but Stephen King came out and praised this film when it first came out, and called it like, it compared it to Halloween. He compared it to Wait Until Dark, which is a movie with Audrey Hepburn that I think Warner Archive has a Blu-ray of, that I do have back there in the collection, have seen. It's a great film, but she's blind in that movie, and there's home invaders that come in. So this was kind of almost like a loose remake maybe of that movie. But again, there are twists in the film. There are turns in the film. You got a killer with a white mask in the movie. I don't want to give away too much, because there are some twists. There's some very interesting twists. There's some things that happen towards the end that I remember watching it back in the day, and I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe they just did that. So they really play with you in this movie for sure. And rewatching it, like, it's actually a really, really solid home invasion thriller. I think the performance by Kate Siegel in this film, she really carries the movie on her back. And her and Mike Flanagan are husband and wife, and I think they were dating when they were making this movie. But her performance is great. Like, she's fantastic in the movie. I don't want to get into the other actors and the characters that are in it, because then we could tread into spoiler territory. But it's a really cool home invasion film that I'm glad to finally have on home video. Now, getting into the 4K here, this was a movie that was shot on digital. I think Flanagan said in the special features that they wanted to shoot on film, but they just couldn't make it happen. It was too expensive. But the movie looks great on 4K. Like, I can't compare it to streaming because I didn't watch it on streaming. I can't remember what it looked like on Netflix back in the day. But it's super clean, and it's crisp, and it looks fantastic on 4K. Now, I did pop in the Blu-ray as well. The Blu-ray also looks good. The Blu-ray's got the 4K scan, also looks good. But it does look a little sharper on 4K. And because this is a movie that takes place primarily at night, I think with that HDR and that Dolby Vision, like, you can really just make out a lot more detail with that, because you have that contrast between the lighter colors and the darkness as well. I think there's greater depth. I think there's greater contrast with that HDR and Dolby Vision, even though the Blu-ray looks good as well. And there is no like standalone Blu-ray option to get this. At least I don't believe. I'll post it down below if there is. But I think you can just get the movie on 4K, which I think is kind of disappointing. Like, it would have been nice if Scream Factory would have gave a cheaper option to just get the Blu-ray with a 4K scan for those people that wanted it, because the Blu-ray with the 4K scan, it looks good too, but it doesn't have that depth and that detail that the 4K does with that Dolby Vision and that HDR. But really, like, crystal clear presentation. Again, like, you could just tell Mike Flanagan, who did supervise the work that was being done here, and also I believe worked on it himself, like, he just really wanted to put everything he had into this release and just make it look the best that it has ever looked. So I think on 4K, Hush looks absolutely fantastic for sure. So no issues with the picture quality here. Like, this is a newer film, you know, so you kind of expect that. It's not like a restoration or anything like that, but I think it looked great on 4K for sure, and definitely I would say better than the version that's on streaming right now. Now, getting into the sound, guys, you do have multiple options for the sound here. You've got the 5.1, you got the 2.0. It's interesting because Scream Factory seems to be only promoting the 2.0 and the 5.1, but I can confirm by actually watching the disc that there is a 7.1. There is an Atmos mix with this, which I think is super cool, because this is a movie that is so dependent on that sound mix and that just really immersive, intense sound design. So I think this is absolutely a film. Like, you wouldn't think so, it being like a smaller, like, home invasion film. You wouldn't think that needs Dolby Atmos, but like, this is a movie that's so like sound heavy and sound focused, just with her, like, you know, they do some really creative things with her not being able to hear. They do stuff from like her perspective, how it sounds to her. And just cool stuff like that. So it's very immersive how they do the sound. So I think it absolutely lends itself to that Dolby Atmos. But it's interesting they don't actually have that on the back, but you got multiple like different sound mixes and stuff in here, guys. 7.1, 5.1, 2.0. So again, they just put everything they had into this release. Now, I don't have that full setup. I've just got a sound bar with a subwoofer that kind of simulates that Atmos, but everything sounded fantastic on my sound system for sure. Now, let's get into the unboxing here, guys. And I absolutely love the artwork right there, and I'll kind of zoom in on that. I just think it's so cool. You got Kate Siegel's character, and then you also got the villain of the movie. And then I'll just kind of go up right there so you can see it. But I just think it's a really cool like visual image of what this movie is and what it represents. And then you got Hush on the front. And then you got actually what she writes on the door. I think in the lipstick, won't tell, didn't see face, boyfriend coming home. So that's pretty cool. And then on the back, guys, and I'm going to get into the Shush Cut, sorry guys, here in a second. But you got some images on the back. You got all the features, which we'll jump into here in a second. And then the specs down there at the bottom. And then you got the spine right there, which got some nice pictures on it as well, which are very cool. You take it out. Now, it does have alternate artwork, which Scream Factory does not always do. So that's cool. It's a black and white artwork, which goes along with the Shush Cut. But then you open this up, and you got the multiple discs on the inside. You got the first disc with the movie on 4K. And then you got the second disc with the Shush Cut. Yeah, I keep wanting to say the Shush Cut. It's the Shush Cut on 4K. And then you got a disc with both of the cuts on Blu-ray, the regular Hush, and then you got the Shush Cut on Blu-ray. And then the last disc right here, which is falling out on me, is all the special features. So this thing is just jam-packed. Can you see the artwork there? Jam-packed, fully loaded. And I'll do the reversible cover art here real quick, guys, so you can see that. I want to make sure I'm showing you everything with this release. All right, you got the front, and there you got the back as well. So let's get into what I would say is the first, special feature here, essentially. But they included a cut called the Shush Cut. And this was a cut that they kind of came across and created by accident. Because they were redoing the film in black and white, because that's the way that Mike Flanagan wanted it. Like, they actually wanted the film to be black and white, but the producers were kind of like, I don't know if we can do black and white or not. I don't know if that's going to sell the movie. So they kind of gave that up halfway through the production, but they let them go back in and do the movie in black and white. And then when they were doing the sound, redoing the sound, they were going through it, and apparently like they cut out one of the tracks that had the score, and they listened to the movie and watched the movie in black and white without the score, and they really liked it, and that became the Shush Cut, or the Shush Cut. Sorry guys, I keep messing it up. So that became the Shush Cut. So what the Shush Cut is essentially is it's the movie in black and white without the score. So you hear all the sounds. It still has that sound immersion, like I was talking about, that good sound design. But you don't hear the music, which leads to a little bit more immersive of an experience, because you feel like you're there with her. Like, it doesn't feel like a movie. It doesn't feel very cinematic without that music in it. So with the Shush Cut, it's black and white and there's no music. So it really is kind of a different way to watch the movie. Now, I watched about 30 to 40 minutes of it, and it really immerses you a lot deeper than the regular movie does, because you almost forget you're watching a damn movie when you're watching it. So that is really cool. They included that here. So you essentially have two different ways. Like, this is not really a gimmick. Like, it really is two different ways to watch the movie. So I do recommend that you watch the regular Hush version in 4K, and then watch the Shush Cut in 4K as well, because the black and white in 4K, guys, that always looks amazing. So I love black and white in 4K with the HDR Adobe Vision, and it looked fantastic as well. Now, I don't know if I would have preferred like that being the movie in black and white. A little bit too like artsy for the sake of being artsy for my taste, because I don't think this is a movie that needs to be in black and white. It's not The Lighthouse. Like, I think The Lighthouse needs to be black and white. I think there are movies where it works, but I don't think this is a movie that should have been in black and white. But it is cool to have that, extra cut in there as well. And like I said, disc 3, and I believe that there's an audio commentary here, a new audio commentary, obviously, with the entire cast of the movie and Mike Flanagan. And that's on just the regular movie, the regular cut of the film, the 4K and the Blu-ray. But there's also a new commentary with Mike Flanagan and Kate Siegel on the Shush Cut. So you got two commentaries there for both of the different cuts. And like I said, getting into disc 3, you have the new commentary with Mike Flanagan. Then you also have the commentary that goes along with the Shush Cut. There's no special features that are on that one either. But one interesting thing about the Shush Cut is there is an introduction with Mike Flanagan and Kate Siegel where they were talking about the Shush Cut before you actually get to watch it. So that's about 3-4 minutes of a little like bonus special feature before you watch that one. Now getting into the bonus disc, guys, like Mike Flanagan just went all out for this. Like, I haven't seen a Scream Factory this chock full of special features in such a long time. There are 9 new special features here with this release, 8 interviews, and then there's a special feature where they basically take the audio commentary and put it in video form, so you get to watch them all, watch the movie and their reactions as they're talking, which I think is pretty cool, and I don't think I've seen that before in a lot of other releases. I don't think anybody's ever done that, actually, where they actually just, it's almost like watching like a YouTube watch along, like people watching the movie, like that's what it is, but they do have the movie playing up in the corner, so that's actually a cool way to watch the audio commentary or listen to the audio commentary, because it just feels like you're watching a conversation between people instead of rewatching the movie, hearing the voice work. So I might actually listen to the entire audio commentary, because that's a different way to experience it, and it just feels different. It feels like an extra special feature. So you have that, but then you have the 8 interviews. You have one interview with Mike Flanagan, and then you got an interview apiece with all the cast of the movie. I think it's like a 20-minute interview with Kate Siegel. You got a 20-minute interview with John Gallagher Jr. You got an interview with Michael Trucco. You got a interview with Samantha Sloan, who actually is a big character in Midnight Mass, and I forgot that she was in this movie because I didn't know that actress before Midnight Mass. Then you got an interview with the people that do the score. You got an interview with the producer, and you got an interview with the cinematographer as well. So yeah, the interviews are great. I went through all of them. I would say it's close to 2 hours worth of interviews with all the cast and crew for this. Mike Flanagan interview is really good. My only disappointment is I wish he would have dove a little bit more. Like he does slightly. I wish he would have dove a little bit more into the whole Netflix thing and how he came to put this one out on physical media and how that relationship went. Now, I can understand maybe he didn't want to do that because he's still in kind of a relationship with them. He still has his work on Netflix as of right now. Maybe he didn't want to rock that boat, but he did put something in an article like a year and a half ago. So I thought he would go more into that relationship with Netflix and how they didn't want to put the stuff out on physical media and how he took this movie off of Netflix to do this release. So I was hoping to go more into that, but he didn't. But it is a great interview just talking about the build up to the process of making this movie. But yeah, guys, at the end of the day, like I think that this release might be the best thing that Scream Factory has done in the entirety of 2024. First off, it's just a cool release because of what it represents to physical media versus streaming, and it's a win for physical media. Like, you can't deny that this is a win for physical media, but it looks great on 4K. You got multiple cuts, you got all kinds of special features that are great. And yeah, and a really cool home invasion thriller as well. Really great movie directed by Mike Flanagan. Like, it's just a cool release. And I think it's one of the best of the year for sure. So if you like this movie when you saw it on Netflix, if you've never seen the movie, like I recommend it. It's a really solid movie. But just a really great release, a standout release, dare I say, of 2024. But thank you all so much for watching this review. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and we'll see you next time.